All right, here we go. So let's see. As you can see, we have a series of 8 topics. If you joined last time from Brooke's session, this is the second one. Its name is skill gap analysis. That's how we established when we started this series. However, Brooke and I went back and think about it, and we felt there's also a gap analysis I wanted to guys to take away as well in between the career exploration and the skill gap analysis. I'll talk about that in a moment. Let's just see, everyone in the waiting room. And so agenda for today. A bit of an advertisement again about who we are in the CMC services, and talk about where are our gaps in terms of a career goals as well as skills required for your career goals. We'll have a few activities in the breakout rooms. This will be a session that is heavily involved your work on what your skills are, what your targets are, identify the gaps and closing those gaps. So there'll be a lot of work on your end. So it'll be an interactive session. And we will wrap it up with some quizzes and then talk about next steps if you want to go one step further in this process. So the specialized masters coaching team, and here you have Kathleen, Brooke, and myself, Srinidhi and Bianca will join in a second. So we have been the core team for the specialized masters. Kathleen is transitioning into an MBA career advising role. Zeke Ortega will be joining actually later this week to be the specialized the master marketing's career coach. As some of you know, I am the primary coach for the MSF students, and Brooke is the director of the specialized master's coaching program, as well as for data science students. Thank you. And you will be hearing from our employer relations team, Heather and Emma and Noah. They are leading the correspondence and participation of employers on campus and off campus, job postings, all that. So you'll also be hearing from them on different industry opportunities. And highlighted the workshop here. These are the different ways that we support you throughout. We're the coaches, and Heather and Emma are the employer relations. You will be engaging with us in one-on-one coaching capacities. This is a workshop, obviously. We'll also have small job search groups in the fall, as well as coffee chats, employer information sessions, et cetera, and the platforms, as you may know by now, where you register for this is 1220 and the undergraduate handshake. So someone, okay, that's work. All right, one more question. Where are these architectures located? Can people type in the chat? There are 3 locations. The first one shouldn't be difficult.
Oh, nice. I'm seeing some responses. Gosh, there's one of these I'm not sure about. I'm curious.
Yeah, I think that the top right one is difficult, but yeah, but we've got, yes. So from San Francisco, Florence, and London. I guess when I'm showing bridges here. So what defines a bridge? Anyone? What defines a bridge?
I would say maybe something that connects point A and B.
Yeah. So there's a point A, there's a point B, and
I
you
would also add maybe there's like an obstacle in between, whether it's like water or something that the bridge needs to get over.
Yeah. A structure that connects 2 points. Yes. And there's obstacle. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're talking about today. Thank you for everyone's feedback. So We're talking about the obstacles or the gaps in between where we're now and where we want to get to. Now, to follow up with last week's session about Ikigai, where Brooke introduced, I don't know whether they have time to expand on that. Now, these are the 4 Japanese letters. I Googled on the internet about life, and Gai means worth and almost like a shell and armor. I'm thinking about how you kind of protect your life from the different kinds of challenges or setbacks or difficulties, right? This is what makes it more solid, like a solid foundation for you to go to take along your career journey. Now, if you look at the different aspects of Ikigai in terms of a career goal, there's a lot of, you see no gap, you see an overlap, right? An overlap of different things. And the more overlap you have, then the less chance there is that there's a gap in what you want to achieve. So starting with the left is like, okay, let's set out what we're good at, and then what we love, like our passion, and combined with what we can be paid for and the work needs. I don't know whether some of you have got the chance to go back home and think about what are the career areas that you may want to go into. For today's session, we want to start out be kind of reassessing that and thinking, okay, is this where the most overlap is this my Ikigai? So activity 1,
Jenny,
sorry.
if you don't mind my hopping back on that Ikigai just for a moment, I'll say those of you who joined us last time, if you walked through the wandering map, we didn't get into this, but I think this concept can be pretty cool for looking back at your wandering map. And I dropped, if any of you didn't join the session we did last week, at the top of the chat, I dropped the link for it, but we did the wandering map exercise. And this could be a cool way to look at your wandering map, is to try to organize it in this way and thinking about what are the points of overlap for these things. So if that helps at all. So thanks to Trinity, she had the idea of talking more about that concept. So sorry, Jenny, go ahead.
Yes. So the first activity is to reassess our target job areas and functions and specific titles from last time. And I'll talk in the next page about, how you think about this Ikigai. Is a lot of the job interviews will really ask, okay, you want to do, tech investment banking, why, right? Like you can't just say, oh, it's better for the human world. Like you want it to be more specific. So it's really important an exercise to actually have your whys and your values to be reflected in your answers, in how thoughtful you can be about the career areas that you're exploring. So after the exercise within yourself, note down 2 or 3 specific job titles that we're going to use for the next activity. An example of this would look like, for example, if I want to be a real estate asset, a portfolio analyst, then I'm thinking about what I'm good at. Is like, oh, I can do financial modeling, I can synthesize a large set of data, I have good communication skills. And what I do love is the, how just thinking about the urban space and the living designs affect people's daily experiences. That's really cool. I want to meet a diverse set of clients and investors. I like a merit-based company culture where my performance can be evaluated more promptly. Now, what the world needs is I think about, okay, the job market in here in Nashville and Southeast, like, okay, there's a demographic migration into the US South. I would like to see more efficiency in the real estate market. If my finance is cheaper, then people can buy houses more affordably. I would also like to involve in some of the community gentrification opportunities. I think they're really cool. Now, what can I be paid for it, right? And it's like, okay, there are Vanderbilt is in the American South, so therefore there should be a good number of opportunities around with our network. I can pay off my student loan with this job, and you know what, is a less cyclical job than banking or other or the tech sector. So I actually like that stability, right? So that combination makes this argument stronger for you as a candidate, that is something that's achievable for you. It's also what the world needs, is what also you love, and that's actually a realistic option. So with that, we're going to pause the talking here and have you guys work on this activity for the next 8 minutes. Any questions?
So Janine, to make sure that we've all got it. So we're breaking into groups. And it sounds like everybody's going to kind of think about the 2 or 3 job titles that they're really focusing on. And then for at least one of those, they're going to try to identify those 4 Ikigai categories. Is that what just like you had on that next slide?
Yes, actually, I was thinking about having, by now, every student should have probably 2 or 3 job titles, and to examine all of them around the Ikigai kind of wheel. And we can take that into the next activity, which will be a breakout. This won't be a breakout.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
And if it helps, I'll put in the chat, these are the four categories to be thinking about for those job titles.
Yeah, I will just put down the example. For people who have finished, I'm curious what your thoughts are about this this exercise. Anyone?
Yeah, I mean, I can share mine if you want. I don't know if that's what you're looking for, somebody to share or just toss an exercise, but
Sorry?
I said I've finished mine. I can share if you want, but
No, like how did you feel about the whole process?
I think it was good. Provided some clarity. So I mean, I know kind of what I want to do, but I guess put it into words and like actually like understanding the whys, actually like thinking about why I want what I want, helps a lot, I guess.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, a lot of times these are like vague ideas in our mind, and we wanted to put it into more precise words so that when you're in interview sessions, there's a good material for you to take into to articulate your reasons and your motivations and for particular job areas. So thanks for sharing that. Anyone else? All right. I think we're about time to move on to the next portion of the workshop. And we'll keep the 2 or 3 job titles that you concluded with this exercise into the next activity. Before we introduce a traditional pen and paper sort of gap analysis, we wanted to be sure that you're aware of online tools for gap analysis. These are particularly AI and algorithm driven, One is LinkedIn Career Explorer. This is a site where you can actually enter a job title and it will show the skills that are needed, and potentially there is also a way for you to input your skills and they do analysis of how much of those skill sets overlap. JobScan also has a similar function where you can create a new scan. Now, I think there's for a limited amount of time that usage per month, this is free. So you can put in your resume and a job description and it automatically see the matches there. Now, we wanted to be mindful that these are AI driven, so they are more mechanical and rigid. So for example, if you are a pre-med student and you want to go into finance or marketing, they may not work all that well. So if you're pivoting into a different career field, we might want to use this traditional gap analysis approach, which is what we're going to introduce right now. But these tools are out there and then they're available for you if you want to just triangulate your results. Okay. Now, like a traditional pen and paper exercise for skill gaps analysis. This is suitable for people who are transitioning, and which I'm guessing many of you are by entering like a specialized master's program for pivoting career directions, and where you find stories that are carrying over some of the soft skills, but not necessarily in the same content or realm or area of functionality. Principles for the skills analysis, we want to talk about honesty and objectivity, right? This is an exercise that you're really working for yourself. So be really honest in inputs. If you don't have skills that are required, you can talk about how we are addressing them, but be really objective with yourself for this analysis. You want to think about impact. So, if you are talking about, I'm great at problem solving, right? If it's something that is in a group project versus a national competition, obviously they will be viewed as having different weights in front of an interviewer. So we think about those more impactful and the situations where you have quantifiable results. Validity, I've seen some of the skill analysis, gap analysis going back to junior high or the early teens years. If possible, we want to have something that's more representative of your late high school to college years, preferably more college, but last 5 years will be a good range of experiences to draw from. Diversity, you also don't want every instance or your analysis to come from one experience. Say, I was the captain of my tennis team for undergrad for the last 2 years of my college. You can't draw every single skills from that experience, because that will be seen as more as lack of dimension in front of the interviewers. And you want to diversify and hopefully thinking about extracurricular or volunteering, class projects, and from building your profile from a more well-rounded foundation. If that makes sense, we'll dive into breakout rooms to do this analysis. Now, I don't know whether you can click on this gap analysis sheet that I built in. Is actually in 1220. So I'll just put it in chat.
And Jenny, while you're sharing that, if it helps, this is you're sharing some cool tools that help with kind of doing a gap analysis or kind of thinking about skills. I just dropped in the chat. Here's a link for one of the ones that Jenny mentioned a few slides back.
Yes, so both of them, once we share the deck, they are linked in the file. So this goes back to this event where I have 2 attachments. One is an empty sheet for your gap analysis. One is example of 4 or 5 skills that are filled out so that you can see what it looks like. So right now we have 21 students. We're going to pop up a poll now, and if you can select your program, you'll be assigned, hopefully this works, different breakout rooms. Brooke, Kathleen, and I will be joining those groups to facilitate the discussion. So that will be, should we come back in 15 minutes? Also stop the recording. All right, launch. How did people feel about the exercise? I'm gonna show this page about, this is a survey, the Brooke, I borrowed from one of your past presentations, of business school top required knowledge and skills. And, you know, you can see that across the globe is pretty fantastic. On this column about United States, what's the most important ones? Actually, you know, the ability to learn, to motivate and lead, interpersonal skills, strategy and innovation, decision-making process, and having that kind of sound structure, a lot of the strategic system skills, and then it comes to knowledge, right? Then it becomes the knowledge of business functions and tech and the product and production process. So if you look at that's like the top 8 skills, only the 6th and 7th come with specific functional knowledge. So a lot of that the business school nurtures is that professional leadership and maturity and communication skills, which I think is a really interesting perspective to have while we're going into this year, because I know, you know, the MSF and data science are very technical. Marketing also has its own, you know, tools, just not to lose sight of broadly where people put weight into skills. These soft skills actually occupy the top spots from business school employments. Kathleen, Brooke, anything to share from your groups?
In the MMark room, we were talking a lot about how just there's sort of like a lack of awareness, right? Like we know what we love to do, we know what the world needs, we know what we're good at, but thinking about, you know, how does that translate into a job title? So I think we're sort of still in that early exploration phase. So we talked a little bit about, you know, looking at your FIG and doing a little bit of research there. And I think that's pretty common with MMarks too. So it was good to hear.
Yeah. Brooke, anything to share from data science?
We talked a little bit about some of the different roles that folks go into, the data science role, but how often you need a little bit of experience to get in a data science role. We talked about how you can maybe get that through the program, how some people sometimes will work as a data analyst for a while before they're able to move to data scientist, depending upon, you know, past experiences and things like that. And then we also kind of talked a little bit about how this relates to interview preparation and how, you know, kind of this, I think like, it seems like from this topic and a lot of the other topics that we're going to be addressing like next week, talking about kind of telling your story, all that kind of relates to things that help you eventually be able to interview and how you can kind of display these different skills that you're talking with an interviewer.
Yeah. I think, you know, for this series, we're trying to provide a structure, a framework for all the steps, and it's totally fine. And it's a very personalized journey, right? So people are at different part of that journey, and we just want to provide the comprehensive overview of what it looks like overall. Yeah. All right. So the next step, closing the gaps. There's a lot you guys will be doing in the 10 months or the 2 years ahead of you. Keep these gap analysis in mind while you address your kind of where you want to improve. These can include in the summer, read some of the books like the Vault guys, what they call the first-hand vaults now, the career guides on just gaining some of that industry knowledge, career knowledge. Networking, we can't emphasize enough, is to talk to past graduates Owen and Vanderbilt alumni to learn about industry, the specific industries, what kind of cultures, what kind of work that they do. That's something you can do definitely this summer. If you have a summer internship or a fall spring internship, those will be good opportunities to address some of these gaps as well. One thing to think about for your summer internship, once you have established yourself in kind of being able to handle the day-to-day, maybe in the final few weeks, you can step up and say, I want to work on this specific projects that might be a little bit challenging, but where you can really step up and showcase that you can complete one project and own it in that internship. So don't just go with the flow, because interns are naturally delegated with the most kind of groundwork. So you want to step up if there's opportunity to address some of these gaps. Courses and class projects, obviously, there will be also student club opportunities at Owen. Leadership opportunities, hopefully also where you can actually practice some of these skills, and independent studies or practicum opportunities. Anything else, Brooke and Kathleen, you want to add? No? All right. Last activity. There's a lot of hard work that you guys are going through on the Thursday morning, so we appreciate that. Now is to go back to the sheet and think about if there's a gap, how we can address it, right? So the resources that I just talked about in this coming year, but also think it broadly about people, technology that can help you address your gaps. So, you know, technology front, obviously, everyone's talking about AI, and for example, there are AI tools out there for helping you with interviews and assembling some of these research findings for specific career areas. So how do you utilize those tools? You think about people, that's your undergraduate, your friends and family, your friends' friends, and also obviously the Owen and Vanderbilt communities, right? So identify those to help you address those gaps. Now, when you go through this activity, we want to think about the SMART goals. So closing those gaps with SMART goals, which means specific, right? Like what specifically you want to accomplish, measurable, right? How do you measure your output, right? It's like, I want to be better at interviews. Okay, but how? Like, how do you measure that? You want to make it achievable. We know that you'll be dealing with a lot of coursework and socializing and just a lot of homework also in the coming year. So you want to make your gap closing activities achievable. It's not gonna, you're gonna spend 20 hours networking during a week. That's just not gonna happen. Make it relevant, obviously, and time bound, right? Like you want to think about, oh, I want to recruit for, say, real estate portfolio analyst jobs. They mostly come, say, in January, and therefore I want to be ready by this November, right? So think about how you address the gaps in the SMART terms and make it really concrete for yourself. Questions? Okay. If not, this will be a individual activity. We'll probably wrap up in 5-7 minutes. Those of you who need to leave at 10 o'clock, I know we already set it out for an hour. That's totally cool. So, all right, we'll come back in at 10:02. For those who have finished, you want to share your thoughts about this exercise? Have you heard of SMART goals before? More time. All right, I guess in the interest of time, we're gonna wrap up this activity here. We have some couple final quiz questions to wrap up the this session. So first quiz question, and you can type it in the chat. What are the important factors in conducting your own gap analysis? Honesty, drawing from a diverse set of experiences, focusing on college experiences only, or knowing that gaps are subjective? Let's type in the chat. Anyone? There's multiple choices. A is good. A is right. Yep. Yes, that's the most important. A and B. Yes. Yes. You don't have to focus on your college experiences only. Just make sure that it's something that's recent. And also gaps are more objective and subjective in the view of the interviewer. So it's, they're really benchmarking you against the next competitor. So that's the number one. So what are the 3 ways that we have introduced today on gap analysis? This one is easy. Pen and paper, JobScan, and LinkedIn. And the links to JobScan and LinkedIn are embedded in the presentation, which we are going to circulate after this session. All right, for those who have finished everything and or are going to finish everything after this session and want to go the extra mile, really be prepared to do 2 more things. One is that if you're finding other entry-level professionals in your target field, right, you can run a gap analysis actually against their background. So as a benchmarking exercise, what qualifications do they have? What is the variability? Like, for example, if they have this software or that internship experience, oh, I don't have those. Maybe I can shape my future experiences that way so that I look more like the ideal candidates that they're recruiting. But also know that it's not only one type of profiles that you have to fit in. So get a variety of entry-level professionals, the profiles on LinkedIn or talking to them personally to have a sense of what are the range of skills and experiences that people have. So that's a benchmarking analysis. The other one is that, look, we've only got 10 months, 2 years ahead of us, right? There are some gaps that we are just not able to address. Take some time to understand where are your arguments against your candidacy might be and how you would respond. It's just not something that I can address in the short term, but how you can actually articulate a solution to that once you get into the job in the long term. So, for example, in the past year, we've had a student who was in a more liberal arts background that was more in sort of like human development. And they actually don't have, when they were recruiting in early fall, they actually haven't accumulated enough technical skills that are required for a financial analyst role. This person, though, said that I know my communication style, I know my leadership style, that's what I've been trained for 4 years. I know how I can best utilize those skills in this entry-level setting and how to work with clients and team members that way. Meanwhile, I will be ramping up my technical skills knowledge. And here is what I've accomplished so far from the summer until early fall, right? So make that a really concrete plan and be able to present it really with full honesty. That is also something that you can almost convert something that is a potential improvement to something that you're like, I'm very transparent. This is where I am, and this is where I want to get to. So that is also something to think about after this session. Yeah, I think that is it. It's a preview for the next sessions, your story and plan. We're going to come back next Thursday at 9 a.m. and be led by Byung-ho and Trinity. Right. Thank you for working through it with us. We know it's a lot of work. Hopefully you can finish it, if you haven't got time to after this session, and, you know, talk to the CMC coaches too about these gaps and what do you think, and we're here to help. Right. Thank you, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.